now, I guess.
Good morning. Welcome to the Olympia Open Space Committee regular meeting for Thursday, October 16, 2025. It is 9:04 a.m. and 11 to order. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of September 18.
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Any additions or corrections? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed?
I'll abstain, sorry.
Abstain. Okay, 2 abstentions. Okay, we're going to move audience of citizens to later. And we love to hear from Liz Graves first.
Hi, everyone. Great to see you again. So yeah, really excited to be here, finally able to share with you the plan that we've been developing for Mono Pond State Park. As you know, we were there in I believe it was May of this year, on the ground doing some site flagging and reconnaissance of the area. And from that trip, we created a concept design plan that has been shared with DEP, and they've been going through the review process for the past few months. So that's been some of the delay in being able to share the progress with you all. But today I'm happy to be able to finally do that. So I will get right into it, and let's see if I can just share screens. Yeah. Make sure that's everyone can see the plan, correct?
Liz, can you make it full screen?
Yes, I will try to do that. Let's see. I'll make it bigger and we'll zoom around and look at different parts of the plan if that's helpful. Is that a little bit better?
Yeah, or take up the whole screen with your screen.
Oh, that's what I thought I was doing. Let me.
Yeah, it might just be our screen, it looks smaller.
No, it's gone.
Yeah, I'm trying to make sure I'm sharing. I'm using the full screen. Let's see if there's any advanced things I can do. I think it might be your screen. That's
Maybe.
my
Okay.
full screen. Hopefully
That's
that,
fine.
okay. Excellent. And we'll zoom around this and just let me know, yeah, if you can't see anything or have any questions. But like I said, we were on site in May and did trail flagging. I believe the original concept plan, we were close to 13 miles of trail, but what we did on the ground was 11 miles of trail that looked at different zones of the site. Starting with the Mono Pond State Park Reserve, the only thing we did in that area of the existing trail was identify areas that needed improvement for sustainability, wet areas that will need armoring, areas that could use an upgrade. We've talked about multiple times in this plan of a potential universal access, which hopefully if there is upgrades to that existing trail, which we're looking at the yellow trail to provide access for wheelchair accessibility. That would hopefully allow for improvements to that parking lot at Mono Pond State Park, the existing parking lot, to provide additional sites that the state would be able to use some different funding to get to that parking lot expansion for that use. But the area around Mono Pond, the existing trails, the yellow trail and the red trail, remain hiking only, and just including some of those improvements, those sites, like I said, that were identified as wet areas, or the existing improvements to a potential fishing access site platform and trail tread improvements to the Yellow Trail. Moving kind of further south in the plan, we've discussed multiple points where there to provide access for this system, and looking at the main trailhead from the north being on the Wellswood Road site, away from Lake Ridge Drive. The area along Lake Ridge Drive, we're looking at just improvements to some hiking trail systems along the pond shore, and then that white trail, again, improving that access for accessibility along the existing white trail, making that a little bit more universally accessible, smoothing out some of the tread and removing some of the rocks, but that's pretty minimal improvements. The alignments for that white trail will basically stay the same as is currently. The main trailhead coming off of Wellswood Road to the north, there's the shared use segment 111 to 107. It avoids that existing road where goes through numerous wet areas. There's a lot of issues with that existing road and why it shouldn't be used as a trail. To improve that, to make that really usable for the main trail user experience, was deemed impractical. There's just so many upgrades and things needed for that that an alternate trail was needed to get through there. So as we were on site, we found areas that were on higher ground, flagged those to connect to some of the existing road system that's in there, while providing some access to a future connection to the Mint Brook Preserve. Access to that Mint Brook Preserve site will need some boardwalk and bridging to make that happen across that wet area, but Mint Brook would remain a hiking only section. The trails laid out there allow for opportunities of interpretation to some of the historical sites. And there is improved potential for a future trailhead in this location or in the southern location. That's still to be determined. We weren't putting it in this plan yet because there's still things that need to be worked out for that to happen. But that's still, I think, as part of the idea that there would be access directly to Mint Preserve at some point in the future, if that can be worked out. As we get further south in the plan, we're looking at the trail connections, the shared use, beginner friendly backbone to the system that will link into the existing airline trail. There's 2 points that will link to the airline trail directly, and 100F, well, it has multiple segment names, will link into that siding that connects into the airline trail. So it's not direct link on the airline trail, but the links to the airline trail were selected based on existing access points, places where there's already access roads. So those were selected for their ease of providing good sight lines and accessible for all users to get in and out of that place. I believe this section near where this purple dot is, there is an existing bench or picnic table in that spot. So that was a really nice site where people are already congregating. So being able to bring people, creating some smaller loops within that system. So folks coming in from the airline trail have options for longer easy loops, along with some potential for some more moderately strenuous hiking and shared use trail systems to the west, along with some bike optimized systems centered in the central part of the site. And part of this plan, things that we've been discussing all along, was minimizing our crossings of the power line corridor. So the design trails as they're laid out crossed in areas where there was the best sight lines and to keep people out of that corridor and off of some of the existing unsustainable roads. So that minimizes those connections. It crosses in three sites actually along the route. And then to the east, to the west, there is an opportunity for a small loop system right off the airline trail. So that provides some really good beginner opportunities in that zone that we weren't able to find in some other places. The terrain is very nice and mellow in that area and open woods. So really excited about that. The other part of what we were doing while we were on site was trying to avoid crossing any of the wet areas and keeping out of any of the sensitive low-lying wetland areas as much as possible. There is one crossing along the north where there will be needed some bridging and boardwalks, but otherwise the concept looked to avoid those areas in all the ways that we possibly could. Any questions on this? And I can zoom back out so you can get the whole view of it.
No,
Yeah, the bike, I, Mark McGuire, Friends of Mono Pond State Park. The bike optimized section, is that bike only?
The sections that are directional, these three trails, 103, 201, and 300 would be bike only. They're meant to be directionally ridden as downhill trails. So those three are meant to be bike only in this plan.
Okay, thanks. And the top left portion, where the trailhead's coming off Wells Woods, I don't really see a loop trail from that trailhead. Hikers like
Yep.
loop trails.
There is not a loop trail in that area because of how it existed with this road. We were really tasked with minimizing our putting extra trails within this like center zone where there's a lot of wetlands and sensitive habitats. So based on some of the constraints we were seeing on site, we were able to create a full loop trail within there. It will be an out and back for that 107, 111 system. People can go on this existing road, but the experience of that is not the best trail experience. And the idea is to have that not be open unless there would be improvements made to that existing road. If improvements are made to that existing road, then there could be a loop through there. I think it's something that we've discussed, but it's not been something that was seen as like a highest priority for getting some of this other parts of the plan built out.
Okay, and it looks like in the bike area for the hiking part, if you wanna do a loop, you'd have to incorporate the airline trail for some of it.
Yes, the airline trail is meant to be incorporated as part of this. Say if you're looking to do this 101, 100 loop, you would be on the airline trail for parts of that, with the airline trail providing access from both the east and west from those existing access points. So it's about a mile on the southern side, I believe, and about a half-mile connection on the northern side to those points of the parking areas for the airline trail. So using this section, knowing that the airline trail will be the access to these, will add some mileage, but it's very doable for hikers and bikers to be able to come in on those sites and then get into the system from that way, especially if they're looking to do a little bit longer of a day, and it adds some more interest to variety and opportunities off of that airline trail system.
Okay, thank you.
The other thing we had been looking for was trailhead or access point from Pine Street from the town-owned lot, and I don't see that on there. That would be at the midpoint on the eastern side.
Yeah, that was deemed not very feasible based on how that access point, and I can let, if Kim wants to speak to that a little bit too, that she's joined, Just due to the easements on that side and knowing that the restrictions would be restricted to some user groups, that wasn't seen as a highly feasible site for access, I think from the state's perspective, and also just getting access through there. There's some really steep, unsustainable grades along that road. And it wasn't like, in order to make that really a good connection, you would need to do improvements across private lands to make that possible.
Yeah, and I'm happy to speak to that for a moment. So we did visit that in the field. We've also gotten some very active deterrent information from neighboring land users here. What is of note is that pond in the back. So it's a ponded area. It is very marshy, but it also is a surface pond. That is not on state land. So it's a series of private lands, and it will become kind of a nuisance in terms of if people were entering in that area. I'm positive that they will be visiting that section. So the combined constraints in this area did deter us completely from identifying a more formal access point there. There may be kind of access for the neighboring area within this location, but this is not going to be a focus area for access for state lands from that perspective. Yeah, and it's you can see it. You can see the grades that make their way up on this road. If that received a significant amount of use, that would definitely be a significant erosion concern, and just quality of experience would be an issue there, along with the fact that we have water resources right adjacent to it. So erosive conditions would be even more impactful on that section that is not state land.
So, if the major points of entry are from Hunt Road at the pond and the airline trail, how do we get from the pond area, division number 1, to the rest of the park?
It's not going to be connected. I believe that's been determined as creating this crossing, this boardwalk crossing, talking to the resource specialists within DEEP and their concerns of creating a wetland crossing to link those two areas was deemed not a part of what they wanted to see in this plan.
Yeah, that is, I know that there's been some considerations from the community on that connection. That is going to be a project in and of itself. So there are significant resource constraints in this area. The other consideration to make is the trailhead up at the top of the pond location was funded by Fish and Wildlife as a boating access and fishing access point. So the majority of parking in that area is actually restrained to being for fishing and boating and wildlife observation access. Even for hiking, we have kind of a limited number of parking locations there. So that is not intended to be a trailhead for the overall system. It will be for that hiking only section within this area.
Do you foresee improvements in the parking along the airline trail in the future?
That is something that we've prioritized and see as a significant need, from understanding that the multi-use access point will really be coming in part from this airline state park trail. So there's already been discussions, and I think that will be stemming from this project to improve multiple sections of parking. It's been a priority for the Airline State Park Trail as it is. So this additional recreational access will definitely be yet another layer that requires us to improve that parking. So yes.
Okay, good, thank you. But it will not be part of this project.
It likely will not be a full component of this project. It may be, if that's what we hear with public input and from your committee, we can see. But right now, from the master planning effort, it really is focused on the Mono Pond property itself. I believe that some of those improvements will be focused on, a more inclusive that includes the segment of the Airline State Park Trail that extends out to these parking areas.
Good, thank you.
Yes.
So I have a question on the pond itself. Right now, there's a real problem with the aquatic invasive plants. Is there any plans for remediation of that?
So unfortunately, I can't fully speak to that. I definitely can add that in. And again, I think the public comment period and working with your team for input is an important component of this. I apologize, my other phone is ringing. Hopefully you don't hear it. I will turn that off in a minute. But what I can say is that this project is specifically focused on our trail master planning. So on the overall focus of the park itself, I think that that's something we should be taking into consideration. At this time, I am not aware of a plan for invasive management. I know that the town has pursued the aquatic invasive plant funds that we have available to address some of those issues. I think perhaps a coordinated effort between our Parks Division and the town could be a benefit in trying to work towards that. So I think that that would have to be another component that we worked on beyond just the trail planning effort.
Any other questions?
If there's a trailhead at the end of Wells Woods, what's the parking situation?
Yeah, that's to be developed, and I think that would be developed between DEP and the town here. I believe there is I think there's opportunities for potential parking either on town property or state property. That's something that needs to be further looked at and developed. It is further parts of this plan. This plan is really that master plan level, and those details will be getting into, those will be those next phases that DEP will be moving forward with to pursue that.
Yeah, and we've been working very closely with this team to phase out some of this work. So, again, we're still finalizing this master plan. So this overview at a very high level. But what I do envision is kind of prioritizing the access from the airline trail initially. I see this section is likely a project in and of itself. So this would take time to pull together and to create, the conditions that would be required to have the trailhead within this area. We understand that there's a lot of complexities. That's definitely one of the most challenging aspects of this master plan and this project overall. We're determining the best trailhead and parking locations. I will also say, I know I've been an active active on the parts of looking kind of beyond what we're seeing here and looking a bit to the west of if there are any sort of even better locations that we could use for parking that are not currently within the realm of this property area. And again, these are long-term visions. So I think that this trailhead would be more of a longer-term vision as compared to as we step into the phasing of the project overall.
Thank you.
Kim, I think I had shared with you the town had done a study of traffic volume and speeds in July. Has that been
Yes.
shared with any other deep
Yes, yep, that's been shared out. And again, I will make sure that it's within our record for all of us and the feedback that we have. Definitely want to take that into consideration. Again, we are definitely working with the challenge of access points and trailheads parking on this property overall.
Good. Todd, you have a question?
Well, thank you. I know, I think there's a meeting planned for public viewing of this. Is that been going to happen on November 6th?
So that's our next phase of business here, to discuss. Yes, November 6th has been the selected date, and coordinating what that looks like location wise is something I wanted to discuss with this committee here today. And I think it was talked about, Tally's been kind of coordinating some of the efforts between all the organizations to help get this planned. And yeah, we're looking at possibly an open house format. I think initially it was discussed as possibly using the town hall there for the community engagement open house. I know the last time we had it at the winery in town, which was a really great venue. And I wasn't sure if that's still an opportunity to do something like that, knowing how many people we had at that last event. Because I believe your open space committee office there isn't as large as the space at the winery for if we have something like 60 people that show up again.
So, actually, we had looked at using our Yeoman's Hall, which is a large, much
Okay.
larger room. Where we meet is in the conference room, so it's a larger room, it has a stage, it has, we can have microphones, whatever is needed. And that's where our town meetings are held.
Okay.
And relative to that meeting, the trailhead at the bottom of Wellswood, I know there'll be questions concerning execution of the plan, and I know you said longer term. I think especially the people that are adjacent to that trailhead will want to know, what does that mean? What's your anticipation for any kind of build out that might occur down there? How would you answer that question in a public format?
I think part of what we're looking for with this public format is to get feedback on some of that, and also getting questions on priority for phasing from community members. I believe that's something that we'd be seeking in some of our boards for we'll be sharing the information, but yeah, I'm looking for feedback on phasing would be something that we I don't know if we'll present exactly the timing that this will happen, because we're still developing that. But with any plan like this, this is, like Kim's been saying, this is a master plan. This is the high level planning effort. So every plan goes through a series of phases to develop out. And oftentimes these take between, 2 to 20 years to get to full execution. So it's not like this is going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah.
But looking at communities, what do they see as priority in the system for how people want to recreate here? That's I think one of the questions we'd like to have folks give us feedback on.
Mm-hmm. And that's I think we're working this, and I appreciate your input because it also helps us as we strategize the presentation approach. So representatives from DEEP will be there, and we will be communicating that, as Liz very eloquently stated, and I don't think I would be able to do much better, that this is a master plan. This is not, seen as a construction plan. We're not moving into construction tomorrow. There's a lot of steps that need to take place to move toward implementation, and that is anticipated to be done in a phased approach. The other piece I want to note is that there are some additional natural resource review that will be required. So we're working on some of that with our natural resource group within DEP. So hopefully we can have folks understand that there's a basis for public input on the master plan, and we are there to listen and hear the concerns of those that live in this area and that have feedback on the approaches taken.
when you actually get to the building portion, how much is this plan to be done by professional trail builders versus volunteers led by professionals?
I mean, as our recommendation for plans like this, we recommend going with a professional build for these kinds of trail systems. Just knowing that the sensitive resources involved and how it's phased out and how to maximize the value for you know, timing and seeing a project completed on a you know, a reasonable timeline. I think, you know, we've identified parts in this plan, especially Tom, I've sent you those points for areas of improvements that could be done in conjunction with volunteers like Friends of Mono Pond, working on some of those sustainability upgrades to existing trail systems. And I think, you know, we've talked about this as a group too, having a IMBA-led trail care school to help educate and up folks' skills on trail construction and maintenance. So, you know, people in the area will be able to help maintain this system as it grows and care for what's there.
Any other questions?
I just had one last one on that.
Okay.
Is it fair to talk about a second phase? I know this master plan is in and of itself a great piece of work, but I know that there's questions about the connecting Mono Pond to Mono Pond State Park. And right now, we still have that disconnect. Is it fair to talk about, you said maybe a separate project? Is that doable? Is there something that would prevent that from happening other than, you know, permitting funding, the traditional, you know, roadblocks?
I will say, at this time and the way, you know, as we've been working with professional trail planners, as we're working with our understanding of natural resource constraints, that would have a significant impact on the resources we're seeing at the state park. So at this time, we are not considering that connection within this master plan. There would have to be a lot of work done to make that connection happen. I don't think that this should be a component of this discussion at this time. I think that we would have to move forward with a concept here and, you know, taking the steps forward to phase this out. That would have to be beyond the scope of this master plan.
Any other questions? All right, so, the November 6th event, that begs a few questions, like, who is our part, how do we set it up? And with whom are we working?
Yeah, so I think we'll be working to coordinate some of that in the next few days with Kim and Callie and I, just kind of spelling out what that's going to look like exactly. I believe, you know, if there, Anne or Tom, if there's someone in your committee that wants to take point for us to coordinate with on creating this event and just coordinating what's needed, we can work towards that.
Tom.
Tom the volunteer.
Yep.
I figured that Tom would want to help with this.
And we will soldier right behind him.
Okay. But we can coordinate with Tom on the exact needs, and like we can, as we square away, if we want to continue with the town hall meeting room, we'll do that. We'll start to create a event invite that we can share out. Thinking that this event, if we want to do it open house format, would likely be something between like 4:30 and 7:30 or 8 o'clock in the evening, just to allow folks coming in after work or after like giving some time frame that's kind of broad enough to accommodate people that want to attend the event. But yeah, details we can work out in the next like week. so we can get that flyer out for you guys to share on your social media and other town website postings. The same with, we'll share with Kim, and we'll be able to get that word out about the event. So we are gonna try to move pretty quick on getting this dialed in. But yeah, I can coordinate directly with Tom, and Kelly and I can kind of spearhead how that works.
Good, because November 6th is not very far away.
I know. Yep, we've been holding this date for a couple weeks, but we needed to get confirmation to make sure that we could move forward with it, and I think we're at a good spot now, so.
Yeah, it takes several steps to have our leadership give us the approval to move forward. So I've been very actively moving this ahead. But yeah, being able to kind of get all of everything aligned on our end. I will say, you know, there has been quite a bit of input from our natural resource division. So we're trying to ensure that the agency is all kind of understanding our communication approaches and ensuring we are providing an open format for input on this overall master plan.
Good, and we thank you for that, because we would never be able to do this without you. So thank you.
We wouldn't be able to do any of this without you and your commission and all of the work that the volunteers put forward, and Tom's endless effort. So
did you get a question, Tom?
There had been some activity from the airline trail on the power line corridor. I'm not sure how aware anybody is. And then the other thing, there's been a few of these road mountain bike trails built out since the study was done in May. So there is activity in that area. From my perspective, I'm assuming if there was a straw poll, that zone 3 is where the phase that should first be built out.
I think there's and that's, you know, I think that bring this input you know, to us, Tom. I will, you know, if you see activity out there, always feel free to reach out to myself and Dave Buckley and let us know. Again, with the capacity we have, sometimes it's hard for us to get in there. I know one point of discussion that, you know, we may not have as much time to discuss at the open public forum, but with your team we can, is that there is a focus of concern from our natural resource division on these corridors. Our power line corridors, very interestingly enough, are hotspots for both bird migration and some of our NDDB species. And so this did come up, and what we described was actually creating managed access points. And as you see, Trail Solutions has done a phenomenal job of actually reducing the number of crossings within that power line corridor. So this approach actually, we believe, may be a method for restricting access along the power line corridor and actually creating more barriers so that people are not creating that level of impact. So we actually think that this approach here can actually help us in managing and maintaining that unauthorized access. And we may be able to do that along with the trail development process. What we say at times, and we'll see in many areas, are if you have appropriate use and you have more eyes on the scenarios, it tends to deter the uses that are not approved and not authorized.
Good point. Okay, anything else?
I think on our side, if I'll share out this plan with the committee here. I'll send an email out with this the map, so you all can look at that, and we'll be working to develop that community engagement resources in the next few weeks. But I'll coordinate with Tom to help dial in the when and the where for this event and any of the asks that we may need on your side to make it happen.
Good, thank you. Very much. Okay,
Awesome. Well, thank you all for having us.
yeah, thank you very
Thanks.
much for
Thank you.
attending this one. And we look forward to working with you on the engagement.
Awesome.
Okay, all
Thanks.
right. Callie Glasty, do you have any news for us from TPF?
I don't. I mean, this is the news I have. What Liz and Kim have mostly spoken about. And yeah, mostly just thinking through this community engagement session and making sure we finalize all the details. So yeah.
Good. Okay, so what?
Anything with Camp Laurel?
I am not up to speed on where Honor is with that, but I'll ping her and just check in to see.
Okay, so you have no acquisition updates?
I do not.
Okay, good. We'll get in touch with Honor then on those. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, since we well, I think we'll talk about that then in executive session at the end. Okay. All right. Kathy and Liz and Kim, we'll just move into our regular business and you're welcome to stay, but I'll bet you have better things to do.
Yes.
So thank you again for attending.
Thank you all very much. Look forward to seeing you in person again soon.
Yeah, great.
Okay.
And
Okay.
And
Thanks.
if you think it's beneficial, I'm more than happy to kind of hang out in the background. And if you know, anything comes up, I saw a few items on your agenda that it may be beneficial if you have questions. If not, you know, feel free. I'm more than happy to let you all work amongst yourselves if it's best not to have my ear listening in. So it's totally up to you. You let me know what works best.
Welcome to attend.
Okay. Okay, I'm more than happy to sit in the background, and I will also let all of you know that we are doing our recreational trail grant round is open. Callie is attending. She just dropped off, but she's attending our webinar. We have a webinar this afternoon at 1. So if anyone last minute wants to get on that, I have a form you could fill out and I'll send you the Zoom link. So I just wanted to let you know before you continue.
Okay, Kim, just a question for the future. In this project, the Mama Pond project, if we were to apply for a trails grant, who would do that? The town, the state, or TPL?
So Trust for Public Land, this project is within a recreational trail grant overseen by the Trust for Public Land. So they did acquire an application. What we do on any state lands is we do require kind of formal agreement. In the case of parks, from our director of state parks, they have to agree that the project can move forward, particularly in planning areas like this that requires input, you know, directly from the director of state parks initially. If it were something like construction, it would have to be a formal agreement with our land management team. But we do have the capacity for organizations, and I know Tom's been involved with some of the projects that we have our, you know, Trail alliance groups can sometimes run them if they're either have a fiduciary in a town or if they're a 501c3 themselves. So our grants are available to nonprofits, municipalities, tribal governments, a broad range of recipients. But if it's state land, we have to work that out before an application's put in. So in this situation, TPL has done that. We are talking with internally about if this and when this trail plan moves towards a phased construction approach, who would oversee that? I personally find with the capacity we have in DEP that having partners like Trust for Public Land are beneficial in moving these projects ahead, or working directly with our towns, because that coordination and collaboration and focus on moving the projects forward is beneficial. So it's always a strategy, always something we're working on together, and we have a range of approaches that we can take.
Good, okay, so we'll be working together for a long time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, we'll move into the rest of the agenda. First of all, let's go back to audience of citizens. Did our audience have any further questions or other questions about other things?
Not for me, thank you.
All your questions answered. Very good. Okay, planning and zoning report. Anything new concerning open space?
No, I think the POCD process has been going very smoothly and managed very well by John. In anticipation of survey questions, I just did text him to see if this, in fact, survey is still open and if he has any numbers or results. So if he gets back to me, I'll let you know. The only other thing is October 21st at 1 p.m. We're gonna start back up with the subcommittee regulation revision stuff. There's nothing on the agenda specifically. It'll just be trying to figure out what we want to tackle next. But beyond that, nothing new for open space that I can think of.
Good, thank you. Any movement on Pine Street parking?
Nope, not that I know. Not that I know.
Looks like it's a dead subject.
Yeah, especially from what they said.
From a state perspective, it is.
Right.
It is, but that could be another neighborhood access.
Yeah, I guess at this point, it'd have to be something like town residents walk act or something. I don't know, it won't be advertised by the state,
No,
so.
that's what I've heard too.
It's kind of similar, Rec Park is the access point for Joshua's Trust, it's not a Joshua's Trust parking lot. So we can have a town parking lot and access to the state land from there, which I still think is something we should pursue.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, I think their comments, just to, I can comment on it, I think their comments though are helpful because it's kind of a neutral third party observer of the challenges there. And I think there's the committee should take note of that, that's all.
Good. Okay. Sam Murder. Any news?
We held a once a meeting. I unfortunately don't have my notes. But I can tell you there was nothing earth shattering discussed. It's very spotty attendance. I was interested to know that has a budget of $27,000 per year. Contributions from the town. And the occasional donor, somebody who got wind of the group, said I used to hike, this is anecdotal, used to hike in those forests a lot. I want to support you. You go a check for $100. She reviewed the monitoring that goes on, data will be coming. So if you get interested, I'll bring that up. No numbers yet. Anyway, hydrilla is definitely a problem in cold, salmon river cold. if there's no money to work on it. The federal funded it broken. Mentioned that last time.
Yes.
Hebron has acquired, or is close to acquiring a couple of large properties. For open space.
Yes,
No
and
details about how they manage that, but it was. They're close.
yeah, and Tom, I think you mentioned that you had some contact with Hebron and their trail system.
Yes, in regards to how it can connect to Mono Pond State Park and,
This, yeah, especially the center of town.
yes, yeah.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yes, and that is all in the Stamp River watershed.
Yes, yes.
So,
Very good.
so the more we develop this and the more we reach west, the more interest we should generate from Stamp River, which might be quite beneficial.
You still hear from everybody. Not everybody. You hear from a lot of the committee members. Where's Mono Pond? Like saying, you know, we're Columbia. That's a good start, because a lot of people don't know.
And, yeah, I know.
But I think that's true.
They-
That's
No,
true.
yeah.
Columbia Earthquake. Oh, yeah. So, Mono Pond? That's how we like it. You might like it that way. Mono Pond? Yeah. Don't want to be on the map.
Not too much, no.
Really weird.
Okay. Hot River Trail Line, it's 12th town.
So the Hop River Trail Alliance has been very active. They did a project changing and improving all the signage and working on removing gates and replacing them with bollards. And a lot of the lessons learned from that, they're gonna be working with the Airline Trail Alliance. Hopefully to get consistent signage on the airline trail and change out the gates to the bollards.
Okay.
They did some work too on getting signs put up on Route 6 directing people to the parking lots for the Hop River Trail. And I've requested a few times with DEP to put up a sign at Pine Street to direct people to the Mono Pond boat launch and to the airline trail parking. It sounds like that has some interest, but it hasn't happened yet.
Okay,
The other thing, Airline Trail Alliance, there's gonna be a 12-town celebration event. In May of next year is the tentative date, and the location is gonna be in Willimantic to kind of get a lot more interest in, what's been done and what's gonna be done to eat the trail. The other thing was the little Z maps, the folding maps. There's some grant money to improve. There was 3 towns out of the 12 towns that didn't have the Z maps created for them, so it's gonna be created, so it'll be consistent Z maps for all 12 towns. And Lebanon's representatives, they just changed it, so they've got a couple of new people that are gonna be representing Lebanon on the airline trail, and I'm working with them on consistency with Columbia's Z map. So Lebanon and Columbia's will be a little bit better than what there was prior to not having one for Lebanon. What else? I can't think of anything else.
There's new benches. Are those on Airline Trail or Hop River Trail?
Hop River Trail has added some new benches. So there's different standards that DEP has for benches. So as time goes by, there'll be more benches added. But who knows what the standard will be when that time comes.
Wayne Norman asked me that question.
okay. Friends, you,
So Friends of Mono Pond is planning to meet right after this. We were waiting on the update from Trust of Public Land and so forth. So now that we have that, we can meet and see what our plans are going forward.
yes. November sixth is a big deal. Because that's what, 3 weeks from now. And we've got to move and get the herd to attend.
Are there any publications from the town that will be coming out between now and this, November sixth? That we should be aware of?
The digital newsletter usually goes out the first of every month.
Okay.
And the views just came out, so no
That's
no
nice.
views. Reports.
Yeah, it was probably more than a month ago that we started talking about potential dates. They had to get their ducks in a row, so who could attend and what dates and
So if
locations.
you get something by the end of this month, make sure we get it to Jen.
Yeah.
Get it in the newsletter.
Yeah, well, I'm sure.
And we can do a text my gov announcement too.
Good.
Of the event. And put it on website.
Trail maintenance, I'll report that. A lot of things came down in the last storm. I mean, of the trails, and we're working on it. There's a huge old ash that came down, boom, right across the trail, blocked the whole.
Where's that? Shows
It's
trust.
right at the near Rec Park. Right at the top of the yellow loop. And so we'll get that cleaned up.
I haven't walked the trail since the storm, so I'll give you an update at the next meeting.
Tom, where do things stand with the mapping at Zeta Farm?
So Yukon Trail Finder Group had done a preliminary draft map of the trails for me. And I haven't done anything with it since then, so hopefully it's all
Your board then?
Yeah.
If you need a hand, I'd like to help with that, I think it's important.
Mainly it's just finding bandwidth.
Hopefully some.
Good, thank you for volunteering. Okay. Moving along to new business. We've scheduled the public engagement, and we've pretty well beat that to death for right now. Okay. The 2026 meeting schedule is sent this electronically. I kept it, and there was some talk of moving to the evening. But I think the scope of the work that we do, we need Mark here, and we need Tim Bradley, we need TPL. And so, I'd like to keep it in the morning, because getting professionals to attend at 7 o'clock at night, it's not gonna happen. At least not on a regular basis, so.
The only comment I would make, I mean, you look at what you need to do versus best case scenario. Best case scenario is the evening so that you can get more public engagement. You can always kind of split it a little bit and do subcommittees with professional staff and stuff, and then, you know, still be able to have that public engagement in the evening. But I think ultimately, like, you know, it's difficult for me, obviously, and I'm not continuing, but it's difficult to get some people who may be interested on the committee. It just precludes them from being on. So I think as long as everybody understands that, you just make the best decision that you can. If it's mornings, it's mornings.
Can I just say, I've been chairman of the EDC meetings for about 3 or 4 years, and I've just recently switched to the mornings. And we're getting a lot more input. This morning wasn't necessarily what we were looking for, but it has worked better. We do have marks around, so I tend to agree with what you're saying. It would be nice to have the evening, but people don't show up at the evening meetings anyways. Because everybody's busy. Particularly if you're a smaller, I go to EDC, Economic Development Commission, we don't get a lot of people to begin. It seems like since I've had the last 2 meetings in the morning, I've had more input, and it's actually been a helpful meeting, so. What you're saying, unfortunately, I think it works out better in the mornings.
Yeah, I think it
And
depends.
philosophically, I agree with what you're saying.
Yeah, I don't think either one of us is wrong. I think if you're looking especially at members of a committee, evenings are better. I think if you're looking for like engagement, I totally see the value with Mark being here and everybody else. With that sort of engagement, mornings are gonna be better. So it's like, how do you balance it, right?
Perhaps we can improve our community communication. You know, because I opened up the latest Columbia View, which was very thin, and there was nothing in there from us. And we really need to do that. And communicate with the public. Because if we meet in the morning, there's like a disconnect with the rest of the public. And it's possible that we can have some meetings.
It's not, yeah, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's just an additional comment. Regardless of when you have it, if you have it in the morning, especially, you're gonna have people who are dedicated to that subject showing up. And if there's ever the necessity for a contrary opinion, sometimes that opinion will be precluded but that comes down to communication. Totally agree with you, like, how do you communicate that better?
Right.
For sure.
So that is a good one, and we should work on a solution. But in the meantime, I'll entertain a motion to approve this schedule as a alternative. So,
Second.
okay, all in favor? Opposed, abstentions, so moved. Okay.
And the board of selectmen warrant,
Yeah,
these filled out by all the members that want to be renewed.
okay,
Member of open space.
it's an election year. So, we all have to reapply for our positions if you wish to continue. If you don't wish to continue, do you note that up here, or do you just not hand one in?
Well, I'll leave it up to you as a chair, how you want to communicate the members that still want to be up to my office. The easiest way is just hand me a pile of who's interested.
Okay. Right? So by our November meeting, I need to, okay, and these out, and yeah. Now, move on. Okay? I just want to very quickly, first, is there any other business? Okay, I want to very quickly go into executive session. To
At what time? It's 10:07.
10:07. At
10:16.
10:16, no votes, no decisions.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Dan, do you want me to?
3 meetings.
Yeah. I mean, if
First
you-
round,
Yeah. Yeah.
So. And there is. Are you back? Are you recording?
So about.